other is our guest that we're about to introduce, but they both cannot multitask to save their lives. They cannot.
That's true.
So when they're doing something and you want their attention, you have to like.
That's true. One day we'll talk about how, I don't know if we have, but you know that they say every woman can multitask.
Sis, we talked about it the other
yeah,
time.
we did, and I can't.
Yeah.
That gift wasn't given to me. If I'm texting and you're talking to me,
that's
and you see that text just flying, just know.
But it is 12 minutes after 11 a.m. and this is a very special week.
Yes, it is.
Love Week. Love Week is where we get to spread love, we get to talk about love, we get to have different situations on the show happening. And guess what? Love Week 2020. Was it 2020 or 2019? Was the first time Jazz made an appearance on the bridge.
That's true.
I was, imagine, I was doing the show alone by then and I was hosting her, 2020, yeah. I was hosting her with her husband to talk about cooking together as a couple. Who knew that years later she would be my co-host?
Who knew? God is good. You know how everything comes full circle.
I know,
But
right?
this year, I get to also be the one hosting
I
people.
know!
Right? Which is really, really nice. And today, just like in the morning, I know Kickstart had Pastor Joshua and Auntie Christine.
Yeah.
Today we have Pastor Jimmy. I just wish I come with Muchala. But hey.
Now this is the fun thing about this.
Hey.
Pastor Jimmy has been married for not more than, okay, he hasn't yet hit the 5-year mark.
Not yet.
Not yet. So I'm excited to see what marriage has been like for him, even before we can get into what we're talking about.
Yes.
But also, Pastor Jimmy is really one of those people that talks about love very passionately. When Pastor Jimmy talks about Susan, my God, you're like, I better get married to a man that talks about me like that.
like when I had him talk about Suzanne way before they got married, I knew they were going to get married.
I know.
I was like, this level of passion
is too much.
Can't end in tears.
Right?
Like, okay, if they do, happy tears.
Happy tears.
And that's what happened.
But you know, Draz, okay, now we're over introducing you.
Anyway.
You're welcome to the show, Pastor Jimmy. It's good to have you on the bridge when it's not the throne room.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's so good to be here. I'm very excited.
To talk about a topic that is dear to everybody. Love.
But you know, we're going to get into that a little bit later. For now, though, I want to, before we can get into a quick break, I want to just hear some of your very honest thoughts about marriage. You've been in there for a couple of years. What is it like for you? Would you do anything different if you had the chance to?
Would I do anything different if I had
the chance to, like, if you could take back time, change the wedding, or change the person, or change the, I don't know, you know what I mean? Like, would you do anything different?
Wow, very true. Of course, I know marriage is people, the husband and wife, that's it.
Yeah.
They are the decor, they are everything, they are everything. So if you ask me, I know when I go back, there's so much I did on the wedding. I wish I would just put a bit more in her. The best decor would have been her. More of whatever she dreamt of. More of that dress. I know she had that dress, but I'm like, if there's even better than what she had, I would have invested, because that's the decor. The person, not the environment.
It's so good for me who's unmarried to hear these things, because I'm just like my friends.
All those amends for Paula come in, because right now her spirit is in agreement.
Wow, but Bob, that's very beautiful. I think it challenges status quo.
Yes, it does.
I don't know if you agree with me, Draz, but there's a lot of hype for the wedding day in our generation.
That's so true. Yes, that's very true. You're right. People prepare a lot for the wedding day, and very, they don't pay much attention to the
each
marriage.
other.
That's the longest, someone said, of course, it's obvious, the marriage lasts longer than the wedding. Even if you live in a culture where your wedding events last the whole week, you're still going to be married, much longer than that, wedding things and everything. But people 2 weeks later are saying, what did I sign up for? Because they did not invest in the time post-wedding, and actually what I should do to live with somebody else.
So actually for me, my best moments were those moments of investing in just understanding what she thinks about, what she thinks about herself. Is she comfortable? Are we comfortable? Are you okay? The people go, things come and change, countries change, friends change. My wife will never change.
Oh, yeah. Come someone.
Paula, let's go for it.
Let's go for a break.
Soak these words in.
A very beautiful song coming in from Cass, and we love this song. I can tell by the way everyone in this place is jamming.
Enjoying it.
Yes.
But yes, the song is called Worth Fighting For, and it's playing for you at about 22 minutes after 11 a.m. And it's simply saying, God sees a love worth fighting for when He sees us. It's like, you know what, you're messed up, but I'll fight for you.
That's
And He
beautiful.
does fight for us every single time. It is
Indeed,
beautiful.
indeed. And it just brings us very, very, very much directly to what we're going to discuss. My name is Draz. I'm here with Paula and Pastor Jimmy, in case you just tuned in. And I love worth fighting for. Paula just says, he sees us when we're messed up,
Yeah.
when we're difficult.
When we're difficult. When we're
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
impossible
Yes,
to love.
but Pastor Jimmy, maybe for someone listening, sometimes we're unaware of who we are, or
Yeah.
you know. But
I
who's a
could
difficult?
be that someone is.
Yeah, I could be unaware that you know. So, who's a difficult person? How would you define that?
Wow,
Yeah.
that's a very good question. Difficult person.
Mm.
Well, I know everyone has their definition of a difficult person.
Yeah.
Difficult people are different for different people.
That's
Mhm.
true.
And I know all of us are difficult.
Mm.
Yep.
Different. There are even
Mhm.
people who are very good but difficult.
Mm.
And so for me, I think a difficult person, according to me, is someone where they are in your space, they paralyze your productivity. They are uncomfortable to stay around. They are very difficult. They all of a sudden, when they come in your space, you're frozen. You're
Yeah.
unproductive.
Yeah.
You're useless.
Hard.
When they come in the room, it takes like a minute for you to be depressed
Mm.
by their words, by their speech,
Mhm.
by everything they do. I think even when it grows, this whole space of difficult people, when it grows, and the insecurity in yourself begin to grow, and even how you feel about them,
Mm.
even how they look may irritate you.
Right. That's true.
And
That's true.
and when you look at them smile,
Yeah.
you cry. When you look at them, like it's something that is real, yeah. Because for me, that's what I would say. Difficult people around you. Yes.
Yeah. I like what he said. You even just by them getting into your presence, you feel crippled
Yeah.
to do things that I know I have experienced
Mhm.
that when
Yes.
someone gets into your presence, they're just like, you know what, I'm done. I'm like over it.
Yeah, I hear you, but even
Yeah.
as he was speaking and saying those things, I could think of moments in my life when I have encountered people like that.
Yeah.
But then, as usual, it gets me to thinking,
When have I been this
when have I
person?
been that person?
Yes.
to
Irritated?
someone else. Uh-huh.
Yes.
Intimidated,
Yeah,
threatened.
felt it and then been it
Been
to
it.
someone. Like, someone finds you irritating, threatening, you know. Yeah.
Just I love the direction you're pointing us to.
Mhm.
Because again, it's very easy to live in unawareness of who you are and for
Mhm.
you what the effect you have on people.
Mhm.
So Pastor Jimmy, full disclosure,
Yeah.
have you been that difficult person and you know it? Like it's one thing to not know that
Mm.
you've been that difficult, but like have there been times, and I'd like you to share with us some of
Yes.
these times where you've been the difficult person and you knew it. You knew that by the way I'm hard.
Yes, very true.
Yeah.
Well, there's no better example I can pick. I've been that difficult person. I
Yeah.
think in so many spaces.
Yeah.
But the best one that I want to pick from is home
Mhm.
with my wife.
Oh
Mm.
dear.
I think I've been very difficult to her.
Mm.
I think sometimes I was difficult knowingly and unknowingly. There are moments where knowingly I was not willing to change and begin to grow and do things differently, and I cautiously, because thanks be to God that we are Christians, we have a guideline and a benchmark. So I know that this thing I'm supposed to do it like this, I'm doing it different, but I'm puffed up and I'm not willing to change and start the journey of change, and I become difficult for her.
Yeah. Wow.
I've been in that space.
Wow.
And it's I've been there, but also I've been in those spaces where I believed a lie. I believed a lie. I grew up different. All those things that we usually say. I grew up. There are certain things that I believed in my life that when I reach here, those things are actually not true, and I'm not willing to change for the sake of the other person, and I become difficult for them.
Wow. And even in line with that, self-awareness is beautiful.
Yes.
But has she or anyone ever been open enough with you to say you've been difficult, you're a difficult person?
Yes.
And what was your response to something like that?
Wow. It was tough. I think it's for me, I would say it's a skill that I've had to learn over time. The skill of receiving. I think it's now becoming better with the young people, but with us, the receiving feedback, especially negative feedback, it's not been easy. A very quick one. I'm reminded one day I traveled, and there was this woman on that same place I traveled with the choir, with the children. There was a lady who she came to me, and I used not to put on Vaseline. I would not even use a deo. And she would say, "Hey, Jimmy, have you put Vaseline and deo?" And then immediately I would put my gun. I'm like, no, I'm okay. And she's like, "Okay, and then she went and took another step, and she's like, "I've bought for you lotion, and I've bought now for me." I was threatened immediately.
Yes.
And I'm like, what? Why? How can you buy? I can buy for myself. What? I was irritated by good feedback that someone was. And for her motive was that, hey, I want you to go serve people while you look your best. She wanted me to look better. I never saw it like that.
Yeah.
Now, I'm reminded, thanks be to God, that there's those kinds of people like her. That the step one was talking to me about what she saw could become better. Step number 2 was even taking a step and investing in it.
Yeah.
And step number 3 was, number 3 was my deliverance moment. And you know how it happened? One day, as before we went on stage, she came and she just put Vaseline on me. And she put a deal. And she even put a deal in me. You can imagine,
How old are you at this point? I think we need that context.
This is just like 5 years ago.
Oh my God.
Right there, I stood, and I think it was my deliverance moment. I stood there. The Lord just came. I just calmed down. I kept quiet. I walked and I went away. And that day, so many people were coming to me, giving me comments. Everyone is around me. It's like, hey, what about this? They were standing around me. And then I received all these comments.
Yeah.
And that was my deliverance moment.
Look at that.
Wow.
Look
All
at
this time,
that.
you've not noticed that people
Yeah.
are not coming around.
Yeah.
So feedback, thanks be to God for her, she went that extra mile. And I know a parent will do that for the child.
Oh, yes.
But this was a friend
Yeah.
doing it for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I love that. So that means that sometimes the people we think are difficult people,
Are
maybe
looking out for the
yes,
best in us.
There we go.
maybe they're just not being difficult. Maybe the reason, just like Pastor Jimmy said earlier, maybe the reason they're being difficult is because they challenge you to be better.
That's very
And
true.
for you, in your mind, that's them being difficult.
And in the process,
Oh.
you after realizing you figure out that they weren't the ones who are being difficult.
Yes,
You were the one
you
being
were.
difficult.
Oh,
There
dear.
we go.
We need to get into a break.
Yep.
And then when we get back, of course, we're going to continue this conversation to Power 104.1 FM, all about love. It is Jazz, Paula, and Pastor Jimmy.
Oh yeah.
And what we're talking about today is loving difficult people.
Yes.
And my God,
There's a lot. There's a lot.
there's a lot. And so far, so good. And so far,
Someone has
we've
sent
talked
a
about
message saying, "What a
Mhm.
story! I'm humbled and will definitely change my ways too." I'm glad to hear that. I don't know if it's the Vaseline story that has
the
moved
Vaseline
you.
story.
The
But
Vaseline
listen,
story.
So far, we've talked about being the difficult people
Yeah.
and thinking that people are difficult only because they challenge you to be better,
Yeah.
which I think has been me on very many occasions.
Mhm.
So, yeah.
Oh yeah. Jewels were dropped right there.
Jills are
And
dropped.
before we went into the break, we hinted that we're going to come back and actually talk about the idea of how do we love difficult people. Pastor
Yeah.
Jimmy was sharing about how someone just didn't give up on him, said you
Yeah.
need Vaseline, and one day came and
Yeah. So
helped
in that person's
him.
life, you were the difficult person.
I was
And-
very difficult.
And I see it as them loving you
Yeah.
through it, because what they did for you was something that was good for you, and
Mhm.
regardless of your resistance,
Yes.
they still brought the message forward, even in a very practical way.
Mhm.
Yes.
You
very
know.
true.
So how do we do that? Someone is listening in and saying, "Hey, my family is difficult.
Mm.
My brother is difficult. Sometimes I'm difficult." Okay, before we even get there, but how do we actually, as
Love,
Christians,
yeah.
love people
Amen.
who are
Mm.
difficult? Yeah.
Wow. Well, for me, there's no better place that I would begin than ourselves. I think we don't need to go in a blame game.
Mm.
Because when we enter the blame game, like in the Garden of Eden, it's the woman that you gave me, it's the snake, it's their attitude, it's their experience, it's the people. Me, I feel like foregoing each and every blame that you put on another person and you actually start dealing with yourself.
Come on.
is a great way to start.
Wow.
Start with yourself. Why? Because there's a lot we have to deal with ourselves. And before we started, there's that thing that came to me. We have insecurities in us, undealt with insecurities in us that make others look difficult to us. That when they speak to us, maybe you have undealt with situations and insecurities in your life, your past, some things that happened to you, that every time you hear someone speaking a statement or something, they bring out certain insecurities in you. They look like your stepmom who tortured you. But then they are not. Maybe they're just saying a statement that is bringing out stuff. They are looking difficult, but it's your insecurities that are making them look difficult. So for me, I feel like when we begin to deal with those insecurities in ourselves, then we begin to change how we look at people.
Yes.
That's the first thing I wanted to bring home.
Very true.
And I know everyone has insecurities. Then, of course, the other thing I wanted to bring is understanding that love, I love how the Bible calls love. Love is charity. Love is charity. What is charity? Charity is offering something to someone who is unable to pay you back. Maybe we need to change our motive for how we love. I'm going to offer you something that I'm sure you are unable to pay back. So I don't have expectations concerning this thing that I'm going to give you. Loving the unlovable, containing the uncontainable, bearing the unbearable. I am going to give you something that I'm not expecting anything in return. That's love.
Wow.
Pastor Jimmy just came check tables.
Yeah, he did, because
Yeah.
do I have to deal with that? I don't have to put up with this kind of thing.
Exactly.
We hear that all the time.
Exactly.
Yep.
He's shaking that table.
He's shaking.
You're listening
very
in. Do you feel
violently.
it? Do you feel it?
But also, I
Very true.
love the part where you said it's mostly an in-person thing.
It
Yes.
is.
So do you feel like that person threatens you? Maybe they're threatening you because of something you haven't dealt with, and I love that you brought that up, because it reminds me of the very many times people label other people as toxic simply because your insecurities are getting in. Do you understand what
I understand.
Pastor Jimmy?
But also, the chain, for example, the way we are seated right here in studio, there is, for me, we need to jump out of the cycle of blaming. Like,
Yes.
I am speaking to Paula and say, you don't listen to me.
Yeah.
Paula is telling Draz, you don't listen to me.
Uh-huh.
Draz is telling me, you don't listen to me.
Yeah.
We are in a chain of you don't listen to me,
Yeah.
and none of us is demonstrating.
Exactly.
You can easily fall for demonstrating what you're against than what you're for.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yes, because
that this is how I grew up.
yes.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm against this. Then we are always asking ourselves, what are you for? Can you demonstrate? Can you show us how to?
How
Yeah,
to?
yeah,
Eh,
yeah.
I love that whole thing, but also this thing worked for me so much in my family. I chose to demonstrate what the truth looks like, because sometimes we can be so busy speaking about how it needs to look like, and we forget to demonstrate it. We become culprits. We are very busy trying to give out medication to others, and yet we are too proud to swallow it ourselves. So I'm like, I'm going to choose, like I go home, I'm like, this thing of listening, I'm going to keep quiet. I'm humbling myself. I'm listening to my wife. She's talking to me. And I'm even responding and saying, yes, please, honey. I'm listening to you.
Yeah.
Yes, I understand.
Yeah.
Yes, please, I'm working on it. I'm going to work on it. Hold me accountable.
Yes.
I want you to help me. Accepting that I don't know some things.
Yes.
I become, when we don't accept that we don't know everything, then we become difficult.
Yeah.
There's nothing much more difficult than the unwillingness to learn.
Yeah.
Teaching is for the teachable. But also it's very sweet when you recognize that God has given us people in our lives to evangelize us, especially good people.
Wow.
They are tuned in a way that they are evangelizing. They are bringing out things in you. They are saying that my wife is like, hey, my husband, I'm not going to be done. I'm not done with you until you become what God wants you to be. I am here. Even that hidden motive, I'll get it out. Even that thing, that attitude, I'll get it out. Even the thing behind the thing, the real thing, I'll get it out.
Yeah.
So we need to be open-minded. We need to be willing when people who we are calling difficult come to our lives.
Yes.
Well, I know there are people who are really difficult, but I'm saying that we can use what the enemy is intending for bad, we can use it for good.
Yeah.
Two wrongs don't make right. We cannot be in a conversation where we are discovering, we are saying, we begin to go into the magnitude and how big your wrong is too bigger than my wrong. I'm wrong. We can't enter that.
Yeah.
I'm going to start demonstrating how right it is and it looks like. I want to listen to you. I want to understand you. And then the other thing I want to quickly say also is unrealistic expectations.
Come on.
Why do we have unrealistic expectations? When I know when you came to me, you found me praying. I am very prayerful. Or you found me in a suit. But that doesn't mean I'm a gentleman.
Really?
Yes, I am reminded. Yes, I am reminded. I'm reminded. Can I get real here?
Yeah.
There is a time when I was dating my wife, and I remember she told me, man, that thing was so much for me, but it was a learning moment. She looked at me and she's like, hey, Jimmy, man, you're not gentle. I'm like, what? What are you saying? Is that you're not gentle. You look a gentleman, but you're not gentle. I was like, okay. Now, what am I going to do? You're very hard. You need to calm down. You need to listen more. She started to even describe what gentleness looked like.
Oh, wow.
Well, that was a learning opportunity for me.
I love it.
So I have an opportunity. Should I call her difficult?
No.
Wow.
Am I difficult? So the willingness there to learn
Yes.
and grow and begin to get on the journey. We are not looking for a finished product. We are looking for people who are willing to be a work in progress.
Yes.
So I started my learning journey there.
Yeah.
What does gentleness? Meanwhile, I thought I'm learning this thing called gentle for her. But Paula can testify I was learning it for so many other people.
Oh, yep.
Because the testimonies are said by so many other people.
Yeah.
That, hey, I think you're listening.
Wow.
Very much. And you know, Pastor Jimmy, I think I just want to take this opportunity to applaud you for your willingness to learn, because I know very many situations where that would have turned into, you don't love me for who I am.
There we go.
You don't.
Yeah.
You know, things like that.
There we go.
Well, I checked that table.
I'm shaking it. But this is the other thing I wanted to ask you about. In this generation, most especially, you mentioned we're not looking for perfect people. We're looking for people who are ready to be.
Who are willing to learn. Yes.
So I want you to speak into the notion of me. If you are not a certain kind of way, I'm not getting into a relationship with you, most especially on romantic grounds.
Yeah.
But also in our daily lives, like the people we allow into our friendships, the people we allow, like, have we set standards that are way too high, or do we need to keep our standards? You know what I mean?
Yes, very true. Well, thank you so much for bringing that up. That up. Very quickly, I want to say, and I know the people are listening to me. Some guys, honestly, you're listening to me. When you begin, it's very tough. It's very expensive to invest in becoming a clown and becoming an entertainer to someone. To become, every time you become what you're not, for the sake of the relationship, you're investing so much emotionally, financially, psychologically, and it's unsustainable. When the time comes and the things blow up and you become the real you, it looks like a disappointment. It looks like it can't continue anymore. Why? Because in the beginning, because you're fighting for this love and you're fighting for this relationship, you acted gentle, you acted rich, you acted expensive, you acted prayerful, you acted all of these things you are acting. And I feel like if every lady out there, every man out there, if we look for someone who is authentic, I rather get a distorted, very bad work in progress than trying to. It's unrealistic. The perfect person is not there.
That's true.
Is not there at all. But there are people who can act perfect. The perfect person is not there. The people that can act perfect are very many out there. So for me, this generation, I think we need to be authentic. I think we need to be the real us. We need to have these tight conversations, these deep conversations. I want to be as real as I can. I want to know about your last relationship. I want to know your greatest weakness. If your greatest is for you, you're beaten by if you're there and you're always disturbed by a certain kind of women and how they look like. I want to know Because when we are seated on a table and we are out together and you're dating and we are seated on that table and you look funny on that table because some ladies are passing around and they look funny and you didn't give me that information, we are going to look like fools. So we need to be authentic. We need to be real. We need to stop to invest in that old clown and show that is unsustainable, because it doesn't cost the person we are dating. It's actually disappointing to them, but it's so costly for us.
Yes.
The people that are trying to act and pretend. Yeah.
It is. Partner, Pastor Jim. We are doing
It's really, really